What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Propability for UFC Jacksonville. We have Josh Emmett going against Ilia Topuria. We got 14 fight card. And yeah, it looks to be a pretty solid card, I'd say, from a fan perspective. Betting perspective, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to talk through it. But nothing originally sticking out. Lots of wide lines on some unders, which I don't really like. But as always, we are here on a Monday with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to some UFC Jacksonville?
I am, dude. This is a good card. You could tell that this is a live crowd card. You know, they're trying, even though last week's was good too. And that was an Apex card. This is definitely a live one, and I'm looking forward to chopping this one up with you in the chat. I don't have a lot of strong leans, but there are some lines that I'm kind of growing into at this point, and I might be betting soon. So hopefully, you, and the chat can figure out some spots here.
Yep, I'm sure we will, as always. Before we get started, if you guys can, like the video, subscribe here to the MMA Engine, and I do want to shout out this chat as well. Thank you all for hanging out here on a Monday. We got Dixon, first one in there, saying, cut Marvin Vettori, lost 3 units on that bomb. Sorry, Dixon. We got J-Bone in the chat saying, let's get it this week. What is up, J-Bone? We got Lucas in the chat as well. We got Victor De Jesus in the chat. We got Bob hanging out. We got Daz. We got Tommy. We got Subhuman. Let's see who else we got in here. We got You Can't Be Snerious. We got Tajik Bey in the building as well. What is up, Tajik? I think we got everybody. Yeah, we got Nathan as well. Can't forget Nathan. All right, guys. I say we get into it, Weezy. We have a lot to talk about. And let's start with the first fight on the card, which is going to be Cody Brundage going against SD. Did you call him Dumbass?
It's pronounced Dumas, but I mean, like, you know, it could go. It looks a lot like Dumbass, but yeah, it's actually Dumas. It's special delivery Dumas is what I'm calling him.
There we go. I got to make sure to say Dumas on my video on my channel so I don't get it demonetized. So good practice here. We got SD Dumas going against Cody Brundage. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds as expected. The under 1.5 minus 130. The over 1.5 plus 100. The fight goes to decision plus 350. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 500. Obviously, violence sticking out here. It's the second highest fight doesn't go to decision line, right behind the Emmett Topuria fight. But yeah, I lean violence here. I knew they would stick it at a 1.5 because it's a Cody Brundage fight, and this guy's been getting in and out, you know, in his wins and losses as of late. His last fight went to the second round against Rodolfo Vieira. Me and you both had a nice bet on the under 1.5 there. Yeah, I think it's a violent fight. I think this fight probably does finish under 1.5 rounds. Minus 130, though, I'm not sure if I love it, but I think it hits. Weezy, anything sticking out here?
Yeah, I mean, like, so they've actually got this fight doesn't go at minus 500, and you're like, wow, that's really expensive. But that translates to an 83.33% implied probability. And when you look and add up Brundage's 4 of 5 UFC fights going to decision, Dumas's only UFC fight finishing inside the distance, 83 or 5 out of 6 of their fights have finished inside the distance. So it's actually priced exactly with the performance matches the price of the line. So I think they've kind of nailed this and put it into a place where it's going to be hard for us to make a lot of money betting violence on this fight. I mean, we got the minus 130 here, but you know, is Cody really going to be finishing Dumas in under 7.5 minutes? Is Dumas finishing Cody in under 7.5 minutes? I don't know, man. I think maybe stylistically this one does go over 1.5 rounds, but God, man, that'd be like a tight, puckered butthole for 7.5 minutes waiting for that thing to go over, Brady. Yeah, it's kind of a stay away for me at this price right now. I feel like we've got a little bit more to learn about special delivery Dumas here because he never got into that fight against Friend. Friend just kind of clowned on him for the entire fight. So, yeah, I'm staying away from this one, dude. Do you have a lean?
Not yet. I'm gonna keep waiting. I don't love the minus 130 on that under, but I may look at the under 2.5. But as of now, nothing's obviously. I'm not laying minus 500 on the fight doesn't go. But I do have a strong lean that it finishes. It's just when does it finish? Does it finish early or late? I do lean early. Cody Brundage is coming in on short notice, so I do kind of expect him to go kind of wild, and he's been doing that anyway. So I think it does probably finish in the very first round. But minus 130, I'm not really running to the window for it, and I'm sure nobody really is.
Yeah, and Lou's asking if SD Dumas was from Pennsylvania, like Special Delivery Jones was. And no, Dumas spent some time on the south side of Chicago and also in Pensacola, Florida. So he's not a Philly guy like the old 80s wrestler Special Delivery Jones or SD Jones that I was referencing earlier. It's me and Lou getting these 80s wrestling jokes. It's our bread and butter, let's face it.
It is. It definitely is. All right, Weezy, nothing really sticking out in the first fight. Probably does finish, but Bet Online's all over it by a mile. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Then we got Taira going against Clayton Rodriguez. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 plus 130, the under 2.5 minus 160. The fight goes plus 155. The fight doesn't go minus 190. We have a juiced to the tits flyweight under here. Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, I mean they're pricing it up 21% more than the benchmark. So you got to be really sure if you're paying up, 65 and let's just call this implied probability the price, and you think of it of a price between 0 and 1. So the price for this one is 0.6552, but only 0.4389 of fights actually finish inside the distance in this division, not to mention Brady, I think we had something like 10 straight flyweight fights finish inside the distance to start the year.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got to expect some regression there too. So one of the other things I wanted to point out here was that Clayton, if we look here at the advanced stats, Taira obviously has never been finished because he's never lost, but neither is Clayton, right? So we've got 23 professional fights between these two gentlemen, and neither one of them has ever been finished. So paying up minus 190, for a fight doesn't go to decision here is unacceptable in my opinion. I would much rather just say maybe because Clayton does have a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background that maybe he can keep Taira off his back and Taira's neck from underneath his chin, or his arm from underneath his chin, because this is way too much to pay for the violence, and we don't have enough of a sample size of UFC fights to kind of really lean on this area of the prop template here in the middle. So I would lean the overs here. They're plus money. They're severely underpriced by almost 17% according to the benchmark, and neither one of these guys has ever been finished. So I think that would be the way to go for this fight.
Yep, I actually agree. Over for me, but it kind of probably might be a sweaty over. I mean, if Taira gets the fight down to the mat, his jiu-jitsu is really good, but there's no way I'm laying minus 190 here. I mean, I think they might be indicating that Clayton Rodriguez is some bum here.
That's what they're saying, but like the way that Taira has performed in the cage, that you're going to have to pay up for this dude because he's just looked flawless thus far. He's even got a knockdown on the feet. So he's even flashed some striking, and in addition to just getting on dudes' backs and being a complete menace and winning a ton of minutes in the grappling time positions. So, yeah, but I think that Clayton is a very good prospect as well. He's young. He's improving. He's got great stand-up, and he's got a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game as well. So I am liking these overs at plus money. They might be something that I'll turn into a track bet this week if the tape kind of matches the lean.
Yep, I don't bet overs, Weezy, but I agree, and I think you have a good bet there. Maybe I should start betting overs though, because I've actually been good at them. But maybe it's just because I really pick my spots on them. Like if I really like it over this one, I think it's solid, but I'm not like really confident in it. Dixon in the chat saying Rodriguez KO sprinkle ?
Rodriguez knockout sprinkle.
It's like
that's
600.
A good question. It's so hard because Taira's. Let me show you guys Taira's fights here. You see this 59% control time for, 15% control time allowed. 14 takedowns for Taira, 5 against him. And that's in only 28 minutes in the cage. There have been 19 takedown attempts. So something about Taira's game really kind of forces the grappling. And that means that Taira is only spending 24% of his UFC cage time at distance striking range. leaves a very small amount of time for you to get a knockout at distance striking range. So it would be something that I think that this is going to be a grappling match, and that's probably why Taira is such a big favorite.
Yep. Agreed. All right, Weezy, let's keep moving on. We got Jamal Emmers going against Jack Jenkins. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 165, the under 2.5 plus 135. The fight goes to decision minus 150, and the fight doesn't go to decision is sitting at plus 120. Weezy, what is sticking out on this one here?
Like the overs here, Brady. Neither one of these guys has shown the ability to finish much at the UFC level. Jamal Emmers did get finished by Pat Sabatini, but 4 of their 5 fights combined at the UFC level have seen the scorecards. And Jenkins is a good minute winner. You know, he takes his time. He'll keep the fight where he's better than his opponent. And frankly, Jamal Emmers is very good everywhere. You know, his wrestling is good. His conditioning is good. His striking is good. He's got really good size for the division. He's experienced. It's just that his fight IQ is trash. So you know, if you're betting that over, that Jamal Emmers might pull a stunt, put himself into a bad position and get finished. You know, that's something you have to worry about. But even Emmers, Brady, check this out. 7 of his 16 UFC fights went to decision. That's a pretty high number for the regional scene, as we see a lot of these guys getting finishes on the regional scene a lot more than they will at the UFC level. So, and Jack Jenkins, only 1 of his 8 fights outside the UFC have seen the scorecards, but you know, a lot of them have went, you know, like 3 of 8 have went over 1.5, and you know, Emmers is not a guy that's getting finished on the regular. So I like the overs here. I was thinking about parlaying them, but there's already a little bit of steam coming in. But we got about 5% vig in this line, and these lines are only overpriced by 3 to 3.5% more than what the benchmark is telling us they should be. So for guys that, you know, have been to decision in over 2.5 rounds, 4 out of their 5 combined UFC fights, and even Jenkins in his DWCS fight didn't get the finish until 30 seconds left in the 3rd round. So I like the overs here. You know, maybe if we can find something to parlay them with, this would be a good stylistic over, I think.
Yep. I think I agree with you. Stylistically, I like it. In terms of like their durability, it looks like Jenkins has been finished in all of his losses, and Emmers has been finished in 4 of his 6 losses. So that scares me a tad. But yeah, stylistically, I agree. I think it goes the distance, and I think it's a competitive fight. And the line's not really indicating that, and that's why Dixon brought up the plus 3.5 on Jack Jenkins. I think that's a solid look. I think Jenkins at the very least can win a round here.
Yeah, and we know we can count on Emmers probably making a bad decision or 2 in there.
At least 2 or 3.
Playing footsie with Pat Sabatini, choosing to strike, you know, with Giga Chikadze. The guy's made some very questionable decisions.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, we know. Hey, we know. It's just that Ashkabov wasn't a smart enough or complete enough fighter to find where he was better than Emmers. And that's actually a hard place. It's a hard thing to do because Emmers is good. He's well-rounded. There's a reason he's the favorite here, but I like the overs.
Yep. For sure. All right, let's move on. Then what is up, Cole? I see you in the chat. We got Trevor Peak going against Chepe Mariscal. We have the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. The under 1.5 is minus 200. The over 1.5 is plus 160. I mean, this is a violent fight, Weezy. Once that fight doesn't go, it gets released on BetOnline. I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be the most chalked violence prop on the slate. Yes, chalkier than the main event. I mean, I just have some serious concerns laying this number. Minus 200 is a lot. Like, you have to be very, very confident in it. And even last week with the Torres Mata fight, I missed the line big time. I was on a cruise. I missed it. Opened up at plus money for the under 1.5 in the Torres fight. Went to minus 105, minus 115, and I ended up getting it at minus 150. And I laid that chalk because I was very, very confident in it. Minus 200, man. I don't like that. Peak is like, both these guys are actually super tough. Like, Peak took an absolute beating on the Contender Series, was able to survive. And even Mariscal has taken some beatings and kept going. And it was Mariscal versus Steve Garcia, like he took an absolute beating from the very jump. And it went into the second round, and the ref like stopped the fight prematurely. Like he was still fighting back. He was still there. So he can take a beating as well. So I kind of leaned to this fight going over, Weezy, but betting it over in a Trevor Peek fight, it would just be the most terrifying thing in the world. So I'm kind of hoping money comes in on this over. But I can't lay minus 200 on an under 1.5 in this fight here.
Yeah, dude, and I think it was minus 220 earlier. I think it's actually kind of like rubber banded back just a little bit because, yeah, we're overpaying by 33%.
Holy.
When you compare it to the benchmark. We're literally paying more than twice the benchmark for the division. The benchmark 0.3307, we're paying 0.6667. I mean, it's crazy how expensive this is, but I mean, all you got to do is tape Trevor Peek fights to know exactly why this thing is juiced to the tits as it should be. I think people are going to be parlaying this thing up, the under 1.5 rounds, and I get it. But, the point of this show is to talk about the price of the line, and whether we're overpaying or underpaying. And yeah, I mean, we're overpaying. So the way I kind of look at it, Brady, it was kind of like last week. I threw the fourth leg of the greasy four-legger was the Christian Leroy Duncan money line. And what I should have just done instead of paying minus 145 for Duncan was just paid the minus 170 for the Torres under 1.5 rounds, which is a ridiculous price, but still, I knew that was going under 1.5. And kind of feel like this one goes under 1.5. I just don't know at minus 200 whether that's a price that I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not at all really. I mean, there's actually an under I like more on under 1.5. I like more than this fight. Lou said that minus 200 implies that this fight is on concrete. Do you know if it is on concrete or not, Weezy? It might be.
No, it's not. But one of the best things I ever heard. So there was an interview with Trevor Peek that I listened to prior to his UFC debut, right? And he was talking about the Kama Worthy fight. And prior to him fighting Kama Worthy, he heard in an interview Kama Worthy say, Trevor Peek isn't about this life. He doesn't want to fight me. He's not a real fighter. And Trevor Peek was like, man, I heard that and I just freaked out. It's like, bro, I'd fight you in a cornfield for free with nobody watching, and Peek is that guy. He is the guy who would fight you in a cornfield for free with nobody watching. Like you could put a hidden camera in his room, send his manager in there on fight day and be like, dude, the UFC just went broke. They say they can't pay the fighters. They would like it if you would go out there and fight for free. And the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
He would just be like, all right, yeah. I mean, like tell him to buy me dinner tonight, tell him to give me $100 in chips at the blackjack table, like that's all he wants. I mean, he would show up for free. So this is going to be such a great fight. It's going to be a total car crash. I don't have the sack to bet the over. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think it does go over. I mean, under. My bad. Lou brought up an interesting option. He's talking about the fight start round 2, which I was really looking at the fight starts round 2 last week with the Sarukian fight, and it was like plus money, man. That Sarukian Silva fight starts round 2. That went over pretty easy. And then he was talking about maybe, what if either of these guys might grapple? I think Mariscal, he has a wrestling background. I don't think his wrestling's that good, especially defensively, but maybe either guy does, and if it does, it might start round 2. But sweaty. Any over in a Peek fight is just super sweaty.
You'd have to be out of your goddamn mind to bet an over in this fight.
Oh,
I mean, you might cash it, but at what cost?
What cost? Yeah, I agree. So you ought to see. I'm gonna wait and see what other props drop at. Maybe under 2.5 is something I feel more comfortable with. If this fight went 12.5 minutes, I don't know. I don't know what that would even look like, to be honest.
That would be absolutely wild.
It would. It'd be very wild.
Yeah.
All right. More violence there. More overpricings this week from BetOnline. I noticed last week how they actually had some solid props while I was gone and away. And this week, it's just nothing. It's like do you like the Topuria violence? Yeah, minus 550. Like, can you believe it?
Minus 550. Yeah, man. It's juiced, but like it's a Topuria fight, it's probably a good parlay piece, actually.
No, they're smart, man. They're smart. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Why would you want that? I mean, if you're a bookie, do you really want to be like, hey, let's give these guys a fair price on the violence in this fight? No, you'd be fired if you were the risk manager trying. They'd be like, you have to be on acid to be dropping like minus 250 there.
Yep, agreed, man. All right, we'll move on. We got Zhumagulov going against Joshua Van. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 200. The under 2.5 is plus 160. And I'm going to refresh because the lines aren't showing up. So the fight goes to decision is currently sitting at
minus 165, is it?
Minus 160, yeah, minus 165, yeah. And the fight doesn't go is at plus 135. So the interesting thing about this is the fact that Joshua Van has never been the distance, Weezy.
He never has. As a matter of fact, he's never seen a third round. He fights like his hair is on fire. He's a fun guy to watch, man. Dude, like there's one of his fights, I forgot what the name of the dude was. He beat the shit out of this guy's body. You know, like he landed probably about 50 or 60 body shots, and like 30 of them, Brady, were knees. It was so nasty. I'm like, how is this dude not shitting himself right now? It was such a savage beating, and he knocked him out with the body shots, if I remember correctly. But yeah, man, good striking. He really puts on a pace. He pressures, head kicks. But his takedown defense isn't great, and his grappling defense isn't great. So I could see this being really wild while it's on the feet. I could see Zhumagulov maybe having some success getting takedowns, going for submissions on the ground. But Van's taking this on short notice. He's never seen a third round in his career. So plus 160 feels like something I need to be doing here for the under 2.5.
Yep. I don't hate it. I still got to tape Van. I'll be doing that hopefully before Stat Diggers. But yeah, what did stick out to me is the fact that this guy has never went the distance. We're getting a big, juicy fight doesn't go. So I'm going to tape him. If I like it, I'll probably be placing that plus money bet there. Finally, some violence, and that's reasonably priced as well.
Yeah, I just actually bet it for 1 unit. It was something I was up until about 3 a.m. last night taping this Van kid. By the way, Myanmar, stand up. It'll always be Burma to me, Brady, but this is the first kid who's going to be carrying that Myanmar flag into the cage, even though he's like a Houston guy fighting in Fury FC, which is like, I believe, a Texas promotion. So that's where he's at all of his fights. He's a fun prospect. Like I said, he puts on a pace, he throws in combination, he pressures, and he's got some power. So it's going to be a fun fight. And at plus 160 for a kid that's never been into the third round and is making his UFC debut on short notice against the Zhumagulov with a Pimblet haircut, I'm going violence.
Yep, maybe his haircut's so bad that he's like pissed off, and we get a pissed off version of Zalgas.
Yeah, like the one that like tried to take the head of Jerome Rivera home with him in that guillotine. Like it looked like he was going to break his neck.
Yeah, might see something like that for sure. So yeah, I'm interested in that as well. Let's see if I missed anything in the chat. Yeah, this is Zalgas engine at this point because we just talk about him every single week nowadays. Wild.
It's fun, man. He's there every damn week, and like the haircut will be 3-0 if this Van kid doesn't show up.
I mean, why would you show up? I mean, with a haircut like that? I mean, it's terrifying. It's like
it really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
All right, so let's keep moving on. We got a strawweight fight. We got Tabitha Ricci going against Jillian Robertson. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 rounds is minus 205, and the under 2.5 rounds is sitting at plus 165. And that's it. We don't have any fight goes or fight doesn't go. Yeah, typically I'd be looking at betting an under in any Jillian Robertson fight, but this one I kind of lean like stylistically. This fight goes the distance. We have 2 black belts in BJJ. Either fighter doesn't really have a ton of power on the feet. I think we get a grappling match, and I don't really see either fighter subbing the other fighter. So I think this fight probably goes to decision. I lean it towards Tabitha Ricci probably getting on top and grinding out Jillian Robertson. But I'm just not sure either fighter is going to get the sub here. Weezy, anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would not bet an over here, dude. I just in a Jillian Robertson fight. No thanks, man. 9 of her 14 UFC fights have finished under 2.5 rounds. And you look at this number here, Brady, 61% combined. Here, if we're looking at this under 2.5, it's 11 of their 18 combined UFC fights have went under 2.5 rounds. So that's 61%. But at plus 165, that's only a 37.74% price tag. So we're getting 23% discount here, a 33% discount when we compare that 61% rate to the only 28.2% under 2.5 rate for the strawweight division. And, Jillian's grappling looked a little bit different down here. Now, I know Tabitha is a grappler, but I think this one's going to come down to the wrestling, Brady. Whichever one of these ladies has the better wrestling is the one that's going to win this fight, because whoever gets on top is probably going to stay there. So I kind of like Jillian. She's training with a bunch of Cuban dudes down in South Florida at the Goat Shed. That's going to get you to be a better wrestler. And I like the fact that she's been in there with so many 125ers. She's felt what it's like to wrestle with somebody like Taylor Santos. So she knows what it's like to be in there with these bigger girls. Ricci, I think we're going to find out how she responds in this spot. If you put a gun to my head here, I would take that plus 165 for the under 2.5 with pleasure before I took that minus 205 for the over 2.5. Not laying that kind of juice in a Jillian Robertson fight for an over. No chance in hell.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially if you're on the Robert. If you're on the Robertson side, I would lean that plus money on the under. I'm on the Ricci side. I like the over. And I mean, I don't like the over. I think it goes over. I'm not laying minus 205. This is the Appletini fight of the week, though. You look at Bet MMA tips. You have half the people on Robertson, half the people on Ricci. I typically like staying away from those Appletini fights.
Yeah, these women fights, man, like there's something about it on Twitter. People really get behind their fighter and they're really willing to go to the well for them. It's pretty funny, but yeah, I don't know if I'll have any action on this one this week.
Who's hotter, Ricci or Jillian? I'm a Ricci fan.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah. So
I'll be yes.
I'll be sipping on my Appletini watching this one, Weezy.
There you go, man. I'm gonna make myself a squashed alley cat, with a lot of fruit in there, and just really enjoy it.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, let's move on. Then we have Mateus Rebecchi going against Loic Rajabov. We have the over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 175. The under 2.5 plus 145. The fight goes to decision minus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision plus 120. What is sticking out here?
Kind of like the over stylistically. It's a wrestler versus a wrestler. I think it's going to be a crotch sniffing contest for the full 15 minutes here. Minus 175, minus 150 for the fight goes. I think those are good looks. I mean, when you see these guys on tape, they're both grapplers. But Loic Rajabov has never been finished, right? But Rebecchi has. In his only loss, Rebecchi was knocked out. It was a long time ago, though, against Powell Kelak, I think. So I do think that these are not overpriced. They're 10% to be overpriced here, 10% overpriced here. Not a massive price to pay. And if you're of the same opinion as me, that the stylistic read for this fight is that it's going to be, who can wrestle, who can get up when they're taken down. I think that this one does go over. So that's what I'm looking at here. Plus 120, plus 145 for these unders when we've never seen either of these guys finish a fight yet at the UFC level. But we did see Rebecchi get a finish on the Contender Series with a no hooks rear naked choke. So I'm not sure, if it was a really good opponent or not. But yeah, I see this one going to decision.
Yep, I think it does as well. Probably super sweaty though with the way Mateus Rebecchi fights, though. Really good finisher. But yeah, like you said, Rajabov very durable, never been finished. I lean over as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
On to the next one.
Let's move on. We got Randy Brown going against Wellington Turman. We have the over-under set at 2.5. The over 2.5 plus 110. The under 2.5 minus 140. The fight goes to decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 165. The under actually opened up at plus 115. I did have some interest there and then went to plus 100 and then even minus 115, but now minus 140. I don't know if I have a ton of interest in that. Weezy, anything sticking out here?
Yeah, so right now we're seeing these underpricings here, in the overs, right? Over 7.5%, 7.1%, and we've got a 22 fight sample size. So it's kind of rare to get this and this be green in a 22 fight sample size. But I can kind of see what people are saying because, I kind of feel like Turman's going to wrestle here, want to get this fight to the ground, and he's going to have to dodge the submissions of Brown with those seriously long limbs that he has for this division. And you probably don't want to be on the feet with Randy Brown being at that massive reach disadvantage against somebody who's so explosive and has so much power. So I'm leaning the overs here. I'm going to be pissing Tommy off today, man. I keep saying over,
Pissing me off.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But the data, Brady, is telling me, that, especially in a 22 fight sample size, that these are reasonably priced lines at plus 110 and plus 135 here. If we were to look at how these guys are being finished here on my stats, we can see that Wellington Turman losses in the UFC. He's been finished in 2 of his 4 losses, and he's been knocked out. And Randy Brown's been finished in 4 of 5 losses. So in these guys' 9 combined losses, we've got 6 of them being inside the distance. So that's terrifying to bet an over. So I see why these lines moved. And I see why we've got overpricings here in the fight goes, or the fight doesn't go in the under 2.5. But what I would probably do, the prudent thing to do is just let these get juiced even more. And then maybe we can find an over 2.5 at plus 125 later in the week, and it'll be a good analytical bet.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really sticking out for me. Plus money, I did have some interest. Striker versus grappler matchup. Brown can knock out Turman. Turman could potentially sub him. But at minus 165 for the fight doesn't go. Don't have a ton of interest there. It's going to be a pass.
Yeah, it's a pass for me at these prices on both sides.
All right, so let's keep moving on. We have Neil Magny going against Philip Rowe. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 170, the under 2.5 plus 140. The fight goes to decision minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision plus 115. Weezy, what is sticking out on this one here?
We got a trifecta bet here for the fight doesn't go to decision. Now, we know that Phil Rowe's got a 100% finish rate as a pro, and we know that Neil Magny has been finished inside the distance several times at the UFC level. Let's find out exactly how many.
I think it's 8.
Is it 8?
It's a ton.
Wrong page. Here we go. Neil Magny at the UFC level, 5 times by submission, 2 times by knockout, 8 times total. You were correct. 8 times total, 7 times in 9 UFC losses. In addition to that, Philip Rowe has been finished in 1 of his 3 losses. And if we're being frank here, this is a massive step up in competition for him. Neil Magny's a guy with 29 UFC fights. Neil Magny's one of these guys that raises his hand to take fights that everybody else is hiding from. This is such a huge step down in competition. Jeff Neal, Max Griffin, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Daniel Rodriguez, and Gilbert Burns are this dude's last 5 fights. And for Phil Rowe, it's Leon Shabazian, the bad Shabazian.
Oh.
Gabriel Green. He got his ass waxed by Gabriel Green.
The bad Gabriel Green.
Then he fights like Orion Kosi, who's falling apart like a Chinese motorcycle. It's not his own fault. I mean, he's just injured. Jason Witt. And then Nico Price. So I like violence here. I think this is a spot where we could see Neil Magny absolutely get a finish because Phil Rowe might not be on this dude's level at all. And we know that Magny can push a pace and break dudes late in fights. And I think Phil Rowe kind of fits that archetype of fighter that can be broken. And in addition to that, we've got a 100% finish rate on Phil Rowe. Why can't he land a big shot against the guy who's been finished in 80% of his 10 pro losses? So, yeah, fight doesn't go to decision at plus money. Thank you very much. That's a 1-unit bet.
I don't hate it. The only thing that scares me is this: death taxes to Neil Magny by decision. Like, he has the worst finish rate on the entire card at like 41%. I don't know. I kind of thought if there was a finish, it'd be on the Rowe side, but kind of talking to me into it a little bit here on that violence. But I'm not sure if I completely like it. I don't know.
Brady, you like it. Stop lying.
I like it a little bit.
See, here's the other thing too, and I want to just point this out. Phil Rowe, one of his fights finished in the last 2.5 minutes, and for Magny in 26 fights, he's had 2 of his 26 finish in that last 5 minutes. So you want to take fight doesn't go at plus 115 rather than the under 2.5 if you're going to join me on this at plus 140, because you want those last 2.5 minutes, because that could be when Rowe breaks, or that could be when he lands the big shot and cracks Magny's chin. So I just bet that for 1 unit plus 115.
All right. I'll think about it. I need to look into it more, but yeah, I can always get talked into some violence, especially at plus money.
Yeah, and it's always the plus. The plus money losses are so much easier to take.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I told you earlier, I was looking at the Rowe finish only. It was a spot that I really liked this week, with Rowe having that 100% finish rate and Magny a 41% finish rate, but they have it at like minus 180 for that finish only. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but we'll see. But yeah, fight doesn't go plus money. I don't hate it.
Yeah, agreed. That's another spot that we just found there. I like it.
And Luce tell me to bet the under.
I don't know you like. I don't know why you're being all cheeky and coy.
I don't know. You're right. You made some very good points, and I like it. Dad's saying Magny's so much better. He can get the finish. Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe he's so much more skilled than Phil Rowe that he can't get the finish. Someone suggested Rowe by sub WTF. I mean, a Rowe sub wouldn't shock me. Magny's been subbed like 8 times.
Yeah, he has been subbed a lot, and Rowe trains with those crazy Brazilians at what is it? Fusion Excel. Yeah. You know, with Jacare, with Vieira. So I mean, he's training with some seriously top-notch Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, world champions. So he gets looks every day. That guy knows what it's like to be choked out. I'll tell you that, because being on the mats with those guys, he's got to know what an arm triangle feels like. I'll promise you that.
You gotta know. I like it. All right, Weezy. We'll move on then to kicking off the main card. Brendan Allen going against Bruno Silva. We have the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. The under 1.5 rounds is plus money at plus 126. The over is minus 156. The fight goes plus 250. The fight doesn't go is minus 325. I really like violence in this matchup, some type of violence. Not sure what I'm looking at yet. I don't know if I love like the under, but striker versus grappler matchup. On the feet, Silva has a ton of power, could absolutely knock out Brendan Allen, has been knocked out twice. And then on the mat, I don't even think it's close. I know Bruno Silva's a black belt, allegedly a black belt in BJJ, but I think his ground game's atrocious. He's been subbed like 7 times. And Allen's just another level on the mat. I mean, he subbed Andre Muniz. I mean, if you're subbing Muniz, you could sub Bruno Silva. So I think on the feet, I do think in terms of minute winning, it's going to be competitive, but Silva has the power. And then on the mat, if Allen gets him down, I think he runs through him like a hot knife through butter. So I'm looking at violence here. I just don't know if I want the under 1.5 or want to wait for the under 2.5 just to be, get the extra round there.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Brady, right? We see this minus 325 for the fight doesn't go, 76.47%. That actually is the exact percent of the combined amount of UFC fights that have finished inside the distance. So perfectly priced according to line 20 here, which is a very important line on the spreadsheet. But if we move over here to the 1.5, see, now we're underpriced by 8.69% here. When we look at the 6 of 11 and the 3 of 6, so we got a 17 fight sample size here, Brady, which is a nice, robust sample size. We can count on the data when we have that much of a sample size. And we're not just relying purely on the data. We know while this is on the feet that Bruno Silva is a very dangerous, powerful striker. And we know while this is on the ground that Brendan Allen subs fools consistently. And Bruno Silva is a fool that gets subbed. He's got like that Lucas Almeida black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that we saw on full display yesterday, right, or the other day. So yeah, dude, under 1.5 rounds at plus 126 here, 53% under 1.5 rate, but we're only paying 44% on the line. And it's something that I would expect to see a little more overpriced than 7.14% when we compare it to the benchmark. Because see over here, we're almost 19% overpriced. So stylistically, we got, even though Brendan Allen's a very good striker in his own right, I call this a striker versus grappler matchup because I think both guys will be dangerous on the feet. I think Brendan Allen will be particularly dangerous on the ground if it gets there. So, yeah, the under 1.5 at plus 126 is a great price.
Yep, I like it. Sean saying y'all know Allen is not going to shoot. Well, if he doesn't,
I know that pisses me off too. Yeah, because that might be something like, a minute into round 2, it'd be like, shoot, you prick. He's not doing it, and you don't get that submission in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I still think I'm going to bet that, Brady. I like that plus 126. I think that's a good number.
Yep, I like it too. I think Allen has a massive advantage on the mat, and then on the feet, I don't think Allen can knock out Silva, but I think Silva can knock out Allen. So striker versus grappler matchup plus money under. I don't hate that at all.
Yep, I'm gonna probably be getting on that one too.
Dixon asking how many takedowns Allen averages per fight. It's not much. He doesn't.
Yeah, let's get it.
Probably
yeah, it's definitely not. He doesn't shoot nearly enough. So yeah, he gets 1.17, but he only attempts 2.19 per 15 minutes, and that's 1.74 less than what the average for the division is. So the average UFC middleweight is attempting almost 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Brendan Allen is averaging about less than half that. So that's very fucking frustrating when you want somebody like that to grapple and they don't. So that's an excellent point by Sean that, the Brendan Allen bettors might be waiting for him to shoot, and they might be waiting for him for the whole fight. And Brendan Allen might wake up saying, wait, I was supposed to shoot. Did I win?
Yeah, that's why I will not be laying chalk on no Brendan Allen this week. I'm going to pick him, though, but I'm not laying chalk on him.
Yeah. So that's the frustrating thing there, but I still like that under 1.5 plus 126 because that shitty IQ by Allen that he shows so often, unwilling to go to the wrestling, just might get his ass knocked out.
Yep, exactly. I like it. All right, Weezy, we'll keep moving on then. We have David Onama going against Gabriel Santos here. We have David Onama, Santos. The under is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 105. The under 2.5 is minus 135. The fight goes to decision plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 170. The thing that sticks out here is both guys just super, super tough. We've seen Santos get hurt a lot on outside the UFC. David Onama, we saw him get hurt a lot in the Nate Lambert fight, but neither of these guys have been finished, but both these guys are very, very, very good finishers. Interesting one here, Weezy. What's sticking out for this one here?
Yeah, the data is telling you to bet the over, Brady. We've got a fat trifecta bet here at plus 140 on the fight goes to decision. The problem is when you watch both these guys fight, they fight like they're on bath salts. It's like 2 rats in a shoe going at it. I expect this to be an absolute war. I expect it to be back and forth. I expect both guys to be badly hurt and in trouble at some point in this fight. The problem is that I think everybody expects that. And you can see it here. You're overpaying by 19.4% when you compare that minus 170 to the benchmark. And don't forget, this is a featherweight fight, Brady. These goddamn featherweight fights, they only finish at 43.5%.
Yeah.
Bantamweight fights below them finishing 49 to 50%. Lightweight fights, the weight class above, finishing at about 50%. Why are the bantamweights 7% lower? Counting on violence in bantamweight fights is a long-term recipe for disaster. I just 2 weeks ago bet the over, or the fight starts round 3 for the Blake Builder fight. It was an underpriced over in a featherweight fight, and it was a beautiful bet. This could be the same thing. A plus 140 for a fight goes to decision. Neither one of these guys have ever had a fight finish in the last 2.5 minutes in their career. So plus 140 fight goes to decision is something that I might even consider, but I think stylistically, these guys are going to go balls to the wall. So it's one of those fight goes bets where you wouldn't be able to watch the fight. You would just have to take the dog for a 17-minute walk from the moment the referee said fight, and then you could come back to find out whether you won or not, because you might have a damn thrombo watching these guys hoping for an over.
Yeah, I mean, if you bet, you can't watch it because both these guys have power. Both these guys have submission game. And these guys are going to go to absolute war. Like, both guys love to go to war early and often. So, yep, it's not one I'll be touching, but I don't know. I'm curious to see where the line goes because the under opened up minus 115. It went all the way down to minus 150, so it's back to minus 135. Curious to see where that goes, but no bet for me. I'm not laying minus 170 on this fight. Doesn't go. If I had to pick, I'll say it does finish, but just hate that number.
Yeah, trifecta bet, though. Just know this is a trifecta bet for the fight goes to decision with about, man, like this. These are the kind of bets, Brady, that every damn time I don't make them. There was one trifecta bet that I didn't make that the prop template was probably said was the best one ever. It was the Jordan versus that hobo that he recently fought that was like sliding around on the canvas. Mm-hmm. The over 2.5 in that fight was like plus 180, bro. And the prop template gave us like 50% in savings, and I just couldn't do it because of the stylistic read. That the hobo was going to get a submission by some kind, or that Jordan was going to knock him out because he hadn't been in the cage in 3 years. So this is a fat trifecta bet, and I don't get in the habit of ignoring these. So I want to just point that out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't ignore the trifecta in the Jordan fight. What I did was I didn't bet the over, but I didn't bet the under. So kind of
yes. Me too. Yeah. I didn't bet the under either there, and I'm glad. And I know a lot of people got burned on that one, and that was one that data was screaming in your face, just don't do it. It's too expensive.
Yep. So I stayed away from that, and I'll probably stay away from this, but yeah, I think it does finish, but that's they're just way overpricing it for some reason. Not really sure why they are anyway, but we'll see.
It's what you see on tape from these guys.
Yeah.
They're both so explosive and fun. This is a great fight.
Oh yeah, it is. There's a reason it's on the main card here.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, Lane versus Tafa is way better and way higher level, which is why it's the next fight, Brady. But still, Onama Santos, a nice consolation prize to these two bums.
Why is the Lane? Who decided to put the Lane Tafa fight on the main card? But at least it's not the co-main. Remember when there was a time where the UFC would put these like low-level heavyweight fights and the co-main event slot? Like I think Tafa has a co-main event under his belt. Maybe it was against.
Yeah, so does Jorgen De Castro.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild. So at least they're not doing that. It's the third fight down. There we go. All right, so we got Justin Tafa going against Austin Lane. The over-under, of course, set at 1.5. The over 1.5 plus 170. The under 1.5 minus 210. The fight goes plus 300. The fight doesn't go is minus 400. Yeah, honestly, like the fight doesn't go minus 400. It kind of seems very generous with these two. Austin Lane, as far as I'm concerned, has he ever went to decision? I don't think so. Never. In a 15-fight sample size as well. Tafa has been to decision twice, though. Yeah, I think Tafa probably starches this guy within the first couple minutes. I think on the feet, it's not even close. I hate the striking of Austin Lane. The striking defense has that tall man's defense, and Tafa hits like a truck. I think Tafa smokes him on the feet. And if it turns out Austin Lane is able to get a takedown, he could probably finish the fight as well. I mean, Justin Tafa, I don't think he has a ground game. We haven't seen a ground game. And Austin Lane, what he is good at is that ground and pound. So I really struggle to see this fight going 7.5 minutes, to be honest. I think the under hits, but minus 210, what are you going to do? But yeah, I think this fight probably does finish early. Weezy, what is sticking out here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Austin Lane once has been over 1.5 rounds, and he's never seen a third round in his career, And, he's an explosive athlete, former NFL player. He played for the Jaguars, for the Bears, for a couple other teams, So, if you're playing NFL football, you're just a ridiculous athlete. And that's what this kid is. I don't know, and that's good enough for most heavyweights. Just to be a great athlete, well, you'll get wins. Austin Lane's got a lot of wins. I don't know if he's UFC level. I don't know if he could take Justin Tafa down. And I think if this stays on the feet, just Tafa's going to find his chin at some point. But, these are two hard hitters. They're two big boys. Somebody's probably going to get served and probably get served in the first round. So, I mean, if you look at the fight doesn't start round 3 rate for these guys, 13 of 13 outside the UFC and 4 of 6 inside it. So it's 17 of 19 fight. I mean, dude, it's just almost 90% of their fights are finishing, under round 3. So, but you're still paying 67.74% for the under 1.5. So it's a lot to pay. Definitely probably just going to stay away from this one. But if you want to parlay like a fight doesn't start round 3, 2-3 leg parlay to get yourself plus money, probably not a bad idea. And maybe we could put fight doesn't start round 3 in our probability parlay this week.
Yeah, I might do something like that, like parlay the violence, parlay the under 2.5, the fight doesn't go, or that fight won't start round 3. Might look at doing something like that. I'd be shocked if this fight went the distance. Austin Lane's fights they don't go to decision ever.
No, they don't see the third round ever.
Yep, he's I don't think he's that great, but neither is Tough. It's a weird fight, but it's a violent fight for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. KO. I mean, I think that's what happens, but I would need a little bit better of a number than plus 200 for a round 1 knockout. But I think that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah, it's probably I no way I'm betting it though. Just because I don't think Tafa's that good.
Oh yeah, he's not.
But neither is 33% chance to knock out anybody in round 1 according to the odds. You shouldn't have a 33% chance to beat a heavyweight with a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? So, plus 200, no chance.
Especially if Austin Lane gets him down, you're gonna be smashing your TV.
Yeah, and still, Austin Lane knows how to tackle dudes. So maybe he might not be a great wrestler, but he can tackle dudes like NFL running backs. So yeah, he might be able to tackle Justin Tafa at some point, but Tafa's probably played a little rugby in his life. Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun one as long as it lasts. Somebody's going to get their head knocked into the third row.
Agreed. All right, let's get to this co-main event. We got Amanda Heebos going against Macy Barber. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 250, the under 2.5 plus 200, and we don't have any other props here. Heebos is a decent finisher, but Barber is super tough, never been finished. I kind of lean this fight going to decision, but not much sticking out. I guess Rebecchi has been knocked out twice for what it's worth, but I don't know. I think this fight goes to distance more often than not, but I'm not minus 250, not crazy about it. Weezy, what's sticking out here?
Yeah, I wouldn't lay minus 250 on an over in a Macy Barber fight. She really does try to finish, and she's got a ton of power. And Heebos has been knocked out a couple times, like you said, even once by Poliana Viana on the regional scene. So, both of these ladies are really good, but I could see them landing some big shots on the feet, and especially Macy Barber in the clinch is nasty. So. It kind of feels like a stay away, but like the under 2.5 at plus 200, underpriced by 2.3% here, underpriced by about 2% here. These ladies are going under 2.5 rounds, just a little bit less than what the division does as a whole. So it's interesting, at plus 200, definitely not the worst look in the world for violence. Macy Barber always is looking to finish fights. And even though she's winning decisions, she's not really winning them. And the same thing with Heebos. Both of these ladies might be really looking to finish this fight, especially Heebos, because she hasn't had a lot of luck on the scorecards.
That is true. There's been some weird decisions between the both of them.
Yeah, man. That Chukagian fight was really close. And then the one after that for Heebos was another real close one, too.
Yeah. And then there was that Miranda Maverick fight with Barber, which
that was horrible. And then I had money on Andrea Lee last time out against Barber at like plus 2 something. Oh man, I wanted to cash that so bad.
Oh god, yeah, I thought you did cash that. To be honest.
Yeah, but it's close. Barber's in close fights, and and she is trying to land the bigger shots. That's the way that she fights. She's really scrappy once she gets in close. So let's see how this goes.
Sean with the hot take here. Rebus versus Vivian was not close. It wasn't. I was there. It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh, okay. What was the one before? I mean, the Jandaroba fight. She kicked her ass. Which fight am I thinking? Because I remember two really close fights where I thought Heebos should have gotten the nod and she didn't.
I can't think off the top of my head.
No, never mind. It's just that Chukagian fight because she kicked the shit out of Virna Jandaroba in rounds 2 and 3, and the Araujo fight was not close at all.
Yeah, so just the Chukagian fight there.
Yeah, just the Chukagian fight.
Do you really want to bet on somebody that lost to Jared Vandera? Absolutely not. That is terrifying. Wasn't that Jared's only win in the UFC?
I think it was. Yeah. I mean, he had a close one with Arlovsky, right? Maybe he could have gotten that one. And he might have even had a close one with like Carlos Felipe or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he could have maybe gotten a couple other wins, but God, Jared Vandera.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, Weezy. Last fight. We got the main event. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We got a good amount of people in here. 51. Appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's talk some main event here. So we got Josh Emmett going against Ilia Topuria, and the first thing that sticks out here is obviously violence. It's an Ilia Topuria fight. Both of these guys have a ton of power. Josh Emmett, one of the hardest hitters in the division, and Topuria has a ton of power in his own right. And then Topuria has that black belt in BJJ. Really good wrestler. Both guys really good wrestler, but Topuria with that really good ground game. So I just think there's a lot of avenues for this fight to finish, whether it's a knockout from either side or whether it's Topuria getting a sub here. And then you look at the line, it's like minus 550 for the fight, doesn't go to decision, is wild. The under 2.5 is minus 210. That's even wild, but I think that probably hits. The over 2.5 plus 170. I think we get violence here, but they're just definitely all over it. Weezy, anything sticking out?
What did the under 2.5 go to?
Minus 210.
Woo! It was minus 175 earlier.
Oh,
wait, I fat fingered that. Minus 210, and then we got plus 170 now for the over 2.5.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, God, stylistically, I do not want to get in the way of violence in this fight. I mean, Emmett can touch you once and it's over. Topuria can touch you once and it's over. And then Topuria's ground game is absolutely nasty. His ability to be able to find submissions, and he's very aggressive with them. And, Emmett Emmett's a good wrestler, but he's very clearly the type of fighter who's like, that's not how I want to fight. He wants to conserve his energy and find that big counter shot or find that big, overhand right. He doesn't want to battle somebody, and find out who's got the better gas tank, who can grind harder. I think that if Topuria goes that angle, eventually he's going to break him and just, get a submission on the ground. So I see this one finishing inside the distance. Maybe we can, that under 2.5 could be a decent parlay piece, man. Minus 210.
Could be. Yep.
Even the minus 550, we could throw that in a parlay too.
Yep. I think, if this fight went to decision, it would be very, very shocking. Very shocking.
That would be wild to see that, frankly. I mean, I know that Yusuf Salal went to a decision, right, with Topuria.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, nobody has. And we got to see Topuria on the scales, too. He's had some problems making 145.
Yeah, he has. And Josh Emmett looked like crap on the scales last time, too. He looked like a skeleton.
Dude, yeah, his face was all drawn out. He looked really, I would not want to bet an over in this fight. That would be absolutely terrifying.
Absolutely not. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. Do you want to go through the spots that stick out? And we hit the PP last week, right? It was the Vettori over and violence in the under 1.5 in the Torres fight, and it was the over 4.5 in the Vettori fight, right?
That's correct. Yeah, so that one was a good hit for us.
That was big plus money.
Yeah, it was. And we hit a 3-legger the week before with the over in the Belvita fight, and then we had 2 violent spots, which were pretty obvious, and they both hit. I think it was a mallet fight and another one. Maybe it was the main event. I forget. But, I'm looking at this. At any kind of violence here in the Emmett Topuria fight could be a really good parlay piece. And also Lane Tafa, fight doesn't start round 3. That could be a pretty good parlay piece. And you know what else I liked? Maybe it's not a parlay piece, but the minus 180 for the over 2.5 rounds in the Emmers Jenkins fight. And then also, I think Alan Silva, like an under 2.5, an alternate under that's not plus money would be a pretty good spot, in my opinion. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was just going to see what Thomas brought up something in the chat. Let me see if I can pull it up here. He said the peak doesn't go. The Tafa doesn't go. And the Emmett doesn't go. What does that come out to? I'm going to tell you in a second. So the Tafa doesn't go is minus 400. The peak doesn't go is minus 500, right?
I don't even think we have that yet.
Oh, we have the under. So we can't really do that right now. Let's see if we have. Yeah, we still don't have that. Topuria fight doesn't go minus 550. I don't know. I think there's a bunch of like really juiced fight doesn't go lines that can be parlayed this week.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, because it's like a peak fight going to decision. What does that even look like?
I don't even know.
Right? I don't either. So, and what is the Topuria fight going look like? That I don't like that either. I mean, that one's going to go. That's going to finish inside the distance. Yeah. So let's do Lane Tafa fight doesn't start round 3.
Okay.
Emmett Topuria fight doesn't go to decision.
Okay.
And then the whatever, dude, let's just do the peak under 1.5.
All right. Yeah, that's going to definitely easily be plus money, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep. I like it.
Yeah, peak under 1.5. I mean, like, or you could also do a fight doesn't start round 3, an under 2.5, whatever you're comfortable with, because obviously you're going to get some really good numbers on that in terms of plus money. So putting violence in those 3 spots together, it is going to be the bigger cage, but I mean, there's not going to be any place for these guys to hide in there. So, I think that all those fights are going to finish.
Yep, I like it. I'll probably do some variation of those throughout the week because I really do like violence in those spots. Even we didn't talk about like the Brundage violence. I think there's easily Brundage violence this week as well.
Yeah. We just got to find out where they're going to open it, because those spots they're not opening. Well, wait, did we get an opener on that for the fight doesn't go?
Yeah, I think it's like minus 500.
Oh, it's minus 500. Yeah, I mean, there's not much. That's actually perfectly priced. It's not really underpriced at that price. So
I like it. I think we hit another PP this week.
I think we do too, man. That's a good one. Lane Tafa fight doesn't start round 3. Under 1.5 rounds for Trevor Peak versus his opponent, and then Emmett Topuria fight doesn't go to decision.
Sounds good to me. All right, Weezy, let the people know where they can find you in the plans for this week. We are going live at 9:15 for Stat Diggers. It's going to be a long night.
Yeah, hour and a half from now, Stat Diggers, Pub Sports Radio. Brady and I doing double duty tonight. We'll be on camera over 3 hours by the time this is all said and done. And then tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time on my channel, Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. Wednesday, right back here on Pub Sports Radio, we're going to be doing the DFS show, and then maybe an Ask Weezy on Wednesday night, depending on how tired I am after all this content.
Yeah, 14 fight weeks are tough. It's a lot of work, but I still have a couple more fights to tape. Going to be doing Stat Diggers tonight, and then hopefully getting out my prediction video. I'm going to try for tomorrow, but it's going to be a stretch. Might have to be Wednesday. But yeah, guys, thank you for hanging out. Good amount of people in here. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Good luck for UFC Jacksonville. Later.